Please check out our weekend preview and predictions podcast on Thursday and our Friday night football scoreboard show on Friday night. And every week the rest of the season through Thanksgiving. And please do us a huge favor, help us out and share this podcast with anybody you think might be interested. We appreciate you as always.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome, high school football fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for the Week 3 in review, where we take a look back at the week in high school football, and we're going to give you some information, tell some stories that we didn't get a chance to on our Friday night football scoreboard show, and Richie Hall of the Hamilton County Reporter to talk about all of the great football going on in Hamilton County. We also have Will Willems of the Lebanon Reporter to talk about Boone County football. And then I talked on Monday to Eastern head coach Josh Edwards, whose Comets are 3-0 and coming off a very impressive win over Delphi to start the Hoosier Heartland Conference. Every week I do this podcast with a guest. Usually it's Michelle Garman or Grant Schaus, but today it's Producer Susie, who just showed up to Stage 22 unannounced with a new car. Thank you, Susie, for joining me.
Thank you for having me, and you're welcome for the car. Not brand new, but new to us.
Thank you for Susie for being my sugar mama and also for joining the podcast. And coming up at the end of the podcast, you are going to pick our offensive player of the week, defensive player of the week, two-way player of the week, our coach of the week, win of the week, and team of the week. Are you up to the task, Producer Susie?
That's a lot of pressure. That's really a lot, but I'm going to do my darndest.
First, let's hear from Richie Hall, who covers Hamilton County football. And man, I think 3 of the 4 best teams in Indiana are in Hamilton County. In the entire state, no matter the class, 3 of the best 4 teams. I believe, I might be discounting Crown Point somewhere up north or something.
Yeah.
But I think there are 3 of the best 4 teams. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, if I had to guess, because Brownsburg looks incredible. So let's hear from our friend Richie Hall at the Hamilton County Reporter on Week 3 in Hamilton County football. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Richie Hall of the Hamilton County Reporter. And Richie saw the Carmel Greyhounds improve to 3-0 with a 48-0 win over Centerville, Ohio. The Greyhounds continue to impress under Coach Wright, don't they, Richie?
Yes, they do. They really just seem to have a lot of momentum right now. They're just playing extremely well. I think they were the running clock by the 3rd quarter. So
yeah,
they had I think it was Anthony Colliner had 4 touchdown passes, which for high school is pretty good, and several different receptions, and so they were just all really clicking.
And I think everybody expected Coach Wright to get back to Carmel and turn that program back around, but I don't think anyone saw him being this dominant this fast.
Yeah, I think they were kind of trying to temper their expectations a little bit. They just want to start winning games, and then after that, start thinking a little bit bigger after that. So they are winning games, and I think there's going to be a lot of people who are now thinking that, well, they could very well be back in the mix for a postseason. And it's Kevin Wright. He's won a ton of postseason championships, so he definitely can never count them out. I think he definitely has this program right now exactly where they want to be and going in the right direction.
Speaking of a program going in the right direction, Hamilton Southeastern, huge win over Avon, and I'm not sure at the beginning of the season I would have had them in the discussion as one of the teams that could win a state championship, but now I'm pretty sure you have to have them in that conversation.
I think so too. Jerry Walker, the third, has come in there and has just really been playing tremendous for them. Especially like the way they won over Avon, because I think it was last week they had a relatively easy game. This week they got pushed a little bit, but they held firm. They had Terry Walker played well. You had Kendrick Pennybaker with that huge touchdown in the 2nd quarter. So I think Michael Kelly's been doing a great job for Southeastern for several years now, and I think that this year they're in a very good place, and they could make some noise in the postseason tournament too.
And Richie, really nice win for Hamilton Heights after You would call a slow start, but now looking back at how good their opponents have been in their other games, it's kind of understandable.
Yeah, it is. I think Heights has a lot of experience on the defensive end. Their offense is still a little bit young, but they've had a couple games now. They're just trying to do a lot better. I was looking through Drew Woodruff. He had 3 touchdown passes
Yeah.
last week, and they pulled away in the third quarter with a couple of touchdowns, and it seems like I think Heights is also going in the right direction. The offense just probably needed a couple games in order to get going and figure out how to do things. But I think Heights is always one of those programs that they're a decent 3A school, and I think they could also be a good. They'll be a tough team for any opponent.
The offense had really started slow, but it exploded, and not just against anybody. Tippecanoe Valley's defense had only given up a handful of points coming into the game.
Well, that's the case. The Heights definitely had a great offensive game, and they had going up against a tough opponent, and this is a pretty young offensive team. Well, like I mentioned, Drew Woodruff's a junior. Josh Gatchell and A.J. Flanagan both scored rushing touchdowns. They're both juniors. Landon Hickman had a 2-point conversion run. He's a sophomore. The receivers are pretty experienced. Bichet, Chandler, Fleming, they're all seniors. But, it sounds like they're all trying to work together pretty well, and that's a good thing to see.
And nice win for Fishers over Noblesville to open the Hoosier Crossroads.
Yeah, Fishers might be surprising some people too, because they have Gage Churchill back as quarterback. He had a great game.
Really nice night.
Yes, Ryan Thindlembu probably could be an all-state contender the way he's been playing the first 3 games. So Fishers has a very good team, and they're definitely one they should watch out for, especially since they are the defending sectional champions. And the Mudside game is this week. This Friday will be at Fishers, and so that will definitely draw a lot of people to that game for sure.
Yeah, big one. And also a nice bounce back win for Guerin.
It's good to see them. You don't usually see them lose games like they did at Pendleton Heights. So the fact they're able to stick with it and get a tough win over Heritage Christian, that's a good thing to see too. Guerin is always one of those Guerin is always one of those programs that is always capable of pulling the big wins. And you had Quentin Klee rush for a touchdown, Chai Clinton rush for a touchdown. Quentin Klee also had 2 passing touchdowns, 230 yards. I never count Guerin Catholic out of any game, that's for sure, when it comes to football.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Richie, tell everybody where you can find your coverage and what you have coming up this week.
We are at readthereporter.com, and we'll have a lot of, it is Mudstock Week, so we'll have a lot of those results. We have 2 big girls golf tournaments coming up Tuesday and Saturday, and then, of course, we have lots of football rivalry games. Southeastern's at Fishers, Noblesville's going to Westfield. So, it'll be once again a pretty busy fall week for us.
Producer Susie is familiar with Lebanon. Her father-in-law lives there. She's familiar with the Lebanon Tigers.
That's
Big
right.
fan.
Oh, absolutely.
It seemed like it was a rough start for Lebanon. The loss to Pendleton Heights, I think most people thought was unexpected, but then seeing what Pendleton Heights has done since then, not that big of a surprise, and it means Lebanon is really good. They have rebounded to win 2 in a row. Western Boone lost their first 2 games, won this week. And Zionsville fell to 1-2 with a loss, but played well. So let's hear from Will Willems of the Lebanon Reporter on Week 3 in Boone County football. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Will Willems of the Lebanon Reporter, who took in a couple of games on Friday and, of course, has some details from the other game in Boone County. You started off with, it was Western Boone's first Monon Conference game ever, right?
That is correct. Kicked off a Monon Conference athletic conference play against Crawfordsville, 2 former Sagamore Conference rivals now battling out in a new conference.
And the first win of the season for Western Boone, and it seems odd to see Western Boone be 0-2, but when you look at the schedule, it makes sense.
I mean, they've always had good battles with Lebanon and Tri-West, 2 former conference foes. Those games just got moved to the non-conference portion of the schedule this year, and took them Western Boone a little while to kind of find their identity and who they are, and got off to a little bit of a slow start on Friday. It was 0-0 after a quarter, but got a defensive touchdown a few plays into the second quarter, then a blocked punt leading to another quick touchdown, and all of a sudden it it started the snowball started rolling there a little bit and got a nice 41-17 win.
And they should be able to get on quite a roll now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the hope. They're welcoming in Greencastle this Friday, which is a new opponent for them. So that will be kind of a fun new challenge, because when you've been in the same conference with the same teams for 25 years, you kind of get to learn tendencies, and obviously players change, but some of the systems stay the same. So this is completely new for them, playing a pretty talented Greencastle team that's had some good success over the last few years. But Western Boone's kind of looking forward to that opportunity, and I think they kind of got back to who they are a little bit on Friday. A really strong rushing attack where they ran for over 300 yards. Defense was solid, getting turnovers, and that's really been their calling card over the last decade or so.
And then you went from Western Boone to Lebanon. I think there probably had to be some question about what was going on at Lebanon after a loss to Pendleton Heights, but not only have they rebounded with 2 solid wins over Western Boone and West Lafayette, we've also found out that Pendleton Heights is really, really good. So it looks like this is a really good Lebanon team. Well,
like we had been kind of talking about, they had opportunities in that Pendleton Heights game, just couldn't finish it off. They had a lot of inexperienced pieces that are kind of learning their way. Really, it's like they've been coming together, and this Lebanon team, they're rolling right now. They're feeling really good about themselves. Whenever you can beat West Lafayette, that's a really good win. They're a very good program, and they kind of showed that Friday. Lebanon jumped out on them 27-7 late in the second quarter. West Lafayette twice got back within 3 in the second half, but Lebanon made the plays that they needed to down the stretch. They got a key 4th down stop about at their own 35 or so, with West Lafayette potentially going in to either tie or take the lead, and then they were able to run off the last 4.5 minutes off the clock to seal the win. So this is a Lebanon team that they're really coming together well. They're heading up to Marion on Friday, which is going to be another new regular season game for them, but they're feeling like things are really starting to get into place, and they're liking where they're at.
Hope they play well away from home, because 4 of the next 5 are away from home.
Yeah, it's one of the weird quirks in the schedule, with kind of finding new opponents to kind of fill in some holes, because they're adding in the Terre Haute schools at the end of this year to the conference, but couldn't get deals worked out with both of them, so they had to find a couple of one-year opponents and things like that. So it's kind of a mixed and matched schedule for them a little bit this year, but they're going to have to be road warriors here coming up, and have some really challenging games too.
And Zionsville fell to 1-2 with their second straight loss, but again, you have to say, not a bad performance. At Lawrence Central, they're in the game the whole way against a really good team and end up with a 40-30 loss. And then this Friday against one of the handful of teams you could imagine winning a state championship at the end of the year, Westfield, and you're up most of the first half, and until Westfield outscored them, scored the final 27 points.
Yeah, a really strong first half for Zionsville. They got a 51-yard field goal from Sam Black to go up 3-0 going into half.
That's
Defense
a long
was
one.
Yeah, Zionsville has had some great kickers over the years, and maybe Sam Black is the next in that. I don't know if many people knew the name before Friday, but
when
you kick a 51-yarder, that says a lot about your talent. And the defense was flying around making plays. They just didn't quite execute the way they wanted to in the third quarter. They gave up 3 touchdowns in the third quarter. Had a couple of penalties that forced them into bad field positions and short punts that gave Westfield some short fields, and really just struggled to kind of get the offense going in the second half. And in Westfield, like all good teams do, will kind of make you pay for that. And ended up with a 27-3 loss.
And I don't want to keep beating this horse, Will, but next you go to Franklin Central, then to Noblesville, Hamilton Southeastern, Brownsburg, Avon, Fishers. Man, getting another win is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, all those teams are really good.
All of them.
Hopefully, yeah. I think the key is probably hopefully getting a couple of these next 3, because you don't want to be heading in with a 3-4 game losing streak heading into Brownsburg, because I think they're just a completely different animal than everybody else in the state right now.
Yeah, and Franklin Central is usually the team you count on beating, and this year they're really good.
Yeah, and I know, and they're coming off of a tough loss last week, so they're going to be chomping at the bit to get back on the right side of things. And Nobles was always a difficult opponent, even with a new coach this year. So, yeah, Zionsville, it's kind of gut check time for them, because in that conference, things can turn south really quickly. I know they still really have a lot of faith in that group. They just need to kind of start putting things together, because they've just been missing that final piece here the last couple of weeks.
Producer Susie, as you are aware, coming into the football season, I had some doubts about the Eastern Comets. I did not pick them to win their conference.
Yeah.
I did not think they would overcome the losses to graduation as easily as they have, but they are 3-0 with 3 really good wins, including a second half beatdown of Delphi last week. And let's hear from Eastern head coach Josh Edwards about 49-24 win over Delphi. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Eastern head coach Josh Edwards coming off a big win over Delphi, coach, and your team faced a little adversity early in the game and reacted very well.
Yeah, and again, I was concerned with Delphi. They run a lot of pretty intricate blitzing systems, and we had worked on it all week, but it's obviously not as easy to replicate that in practice with scout team players. So their blitzing and their stunting gave us some trouble early on, and we made a couple. Actually, you know what? We didn't really do it. The kids made the adjustments at halftime, and it was a technique adjustment. It wasn't even a scheme adjustment. Our kids made a couple of little adjustments on their technique at halftime. They told us that they were going to try it. And our offensive line blocking just took off in the second half. Running game took off, passing game. Never really quite got that to be explosive on Friday, but our running game was very good on Friday night. And so, from that point forward, man, those first 2 quarters and even part of the third, it was a dogfight. And, Delphi's guys were competing, going hard, flying to the football. And, we had 2 costly turnovers in the first half, had 2 fumbles in their territory that really cost us field position, especially. And then second half, man, really defense played great the whole game. They had to buckle down on those turnovers. I think they only scored on 1 of those. And then defense made a great play right before halftime with an interception. Caleb Hurt intercepted a ball in the red zone there that gave us the ball, allowed us to knee it and go to the halftime with a decent lead. And then the second half, once our guys got their – again, they tweaked it themselves. Just a small change in technique by a couple of our guys on their blocking. The running game became explosive, and then the defense started to take the ball away from them, and they were in trouble after that.
Coach, I was following along on Twitter while I was at the Tipton game, and it was close throughout the whole first half and then part of the second half. Then all of a sudden, it seemed like every time I hit refresh, you guys scored a touchdown. Again,
we have great leaders on our football team, and what I like about our guys is I mentioned this about the Oak Hill game is that there was no panic. Again, we were not playing clean, and I mentioned to you last week that was one of my goals offensively was to try to clean things up. We still scored 42 offensive points. We had 7 defensive points, so we scored 49 total. But we're still, like I mentioned, the 2 turnovers in the first half, which were on 3rd and short, like 3rd and less than 1, and we fumbled, gave them the ball. But really, in the second half, man, our leaders stepped up at halftime and kind of took charge. And, again, we didn't do anything different schematically. We just executed better. And, again, I attribute that to our juniors and seniors and our captains that are our coaches on the field that kind of helped to get the ship righted, as to say that.
All right, Coach, tell me about this guy on your team named Abe Edwards. 15 tackles on Friday, 4 tackles for loss. He does a great job in the middle of your defense, doesn't he?
Yeah, and what's really overlooked with Abe, obviously, he's a big, strong cat, and he's athletic, but he also had 2 interceptions that Friday as well. One of them with them driving down to score, and he one of the things college coaches really asked him to do this offseason was to work on his pass coverage, and he did that. He dropped back deep on one and intercepted, had to get up for it, intercepted one over the middle, and then later on in the fourth quarter, they tried to hit a quick slant. He tipped it up in the air to himself, and took about 10 more yards. And then later on in the game, they went to an empty formation, and he had to bump out and play man-to-man and run with a guy down the field. And a lot of people overlook that part of his game. He's 6'3", 230, and they kind of overlook that. They know he's big, physical, and strong, but I was very proud of him, and as far as his pass coverage goes, and really all of our guys in their pass coverage has been phenomenal with Coach Eagle. It's really came a long way. We call him the eraser. We put him in the middle, and he kind of helps scrape and flow, and any kind of missed tackle, he's usually there to pick it up. But I tell you what, his companion, Richard Bickle, who's right next to him, also is playing very well, too. He had around 8 or 9 tackles, maybe 10 on Friday. And so he's really, really starting to play well. And both of those guys are juniors. And I'm super excited about having both of those guys in the middle because they're starting to really play well off of each other.
Coach, we'll talk about Taylor a little later in the week coming up. Taylor and then Carroll. But I want to talk right now about adding a game to your schedule. Let everybody know October 3rd you have filled the spot that was left by Tri-Central.
Yeah, we have. And again, it's not the most, I don't know how to describe it. It's a game. We'll put it that way. And again, I appreciate it's Phelan Academy out of Indianapolis. We appreciate them playing us. They wanted to do a 2-year contract, but we did not do that. But we are grateful that they're willing to come to Greentown and give us at least a football game. I don't want my seniors to have like we talked last week, I think, about how you're only guaranteed 9 games. And losing that one cuts them down to 8 regular season games. So that was one of my goals, was to try to at least find them a game so that they could play, 9 full regular season games. And we got lucky enough to where we can play it at home. Again, I know very, very little about Phelan Academy other than that they're 0-2 right now. But again, we started 0-3 last year and won the sectional. So we're obviously just very grateful to get a football game for our guys on that week.
Yeah, especially a home one.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Thanks so much, Coach. Appreciate your time.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report, and the reason Producer Susie is here, along with delivering my brand new beautiful car, is to name the award winners for the week. The Central Indiana Sports Report Offensive Player of the Week, Defensive Player of the Week, Two-Way Player of the Week, Win of the Week, Coach of the Week, and Team of the Week. And then we will reveal our top 20 power poll for Central Indiana. Producer Susie, are you ready?
I am ready.
The Central Indiana Sports Report Offensive Player of the Week nominees are New Palestine junior Jacob Davis, who threw for 233 yards and 2 touchdowns and ran for 83 yards and 2 more scores, and the Dragons' 35-10 win over Yorktown in the Hoosier Heritage Conference opener. Alexandria senior Mason Fuller caught just 4 passes but for 132 yards and scored twice as Alexandria improved to 3-0 with a 47-0 win over Elwood. And Susie, I was watching that game online as it happened, and they were like 2-yard passes that he just took for the touchdown.
He just went with it.
Everybody.
Wow.
He was really good. Western senior Matt McKintrick is back in a big way. He ran for 290 yards and 3 scores, and the Panthers' stunning 46-14 win over Class 2A number 2 Indianapolis Lutheran. Lebanon senior Josh Parks ran for 183 yards on 30 carries. I bet he was tired Saturday.
I bet.
And scored twice as Lebanon held off West Lafayette for a 37-34 victory. Big win for the Tigers. And Western Boone senior Jacob Smith carried the ball 30 times. He was also tired. For 192 yards and a pair of scores. And the Stars' 41-17 win over Crawfordsville. And Producer Susie, who is the Central Indiana Sports Report Offensive Player of the Week?
With an impressive 290 yards, that the Central Indiana Sports Report Offensive Player of the Week has to be Western senior Matt McKittrick.
And everybody, I want you to know that I have my opinion. I pick the nominees, but the guest picks the Player of the Week. Producer Susie goes with the pick I would have had as well. I think that was as good of the other performances were. Pretty obvious Offensive Player of the Week. Matt McKintrick, again, he missed a lot of last season with an injury. He's back, and the Panthers are back. The Central Indiana Sports Report Defensive Player of the Week nominees are, Susie, this is a good time for me to remind people that I am really good with names, probably in the 95th percentile.
Yeah, you
but
are.
I do get some wrong. If I do get them wrong, please let me know. The first Defensive Player of the Week nominee is Westfield junior Olamide Fapetu. He led the Shamrocks with 10 tackles and 5 tackles for loss and had a half sack in the Shamrocks' 27-3 win over Zionsville. New Palestine sophomore Sam Hershey had 6 solo tackles, 2 assists, 4 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback sacks as the Dragons beat Yorktown 35-10. Eastern junior Abe Edwards, as we heard about from Coach Edwards earlier, had 9 solo tackles and 6 assists for 15 total. That, of course, led the Comets. And also had 4 tackles for loss as Eastern beat Delphi 49-24. Pendleton Heights senior Rylan Kiesling, who was nominated 3 or 4 times last year for Defensive Player of the Week, had 8 tackles, including 5 solos, along with 2 tackles for loss and a quarterback sack, as the Arabians outscored Newcastle 35-0, Pendleton Heights' second straight shutout. And Westdale junior Eli Wright had 3 tackles for loss and a sack and a half as the Warriors shut out Blackhawk Christian 42-0. Producer Susie, who is the Central Indiana Sports Report Defensive Player of the Week.
I think the Central Indiana Sports Report Defensive Player of the Week should go to Eastern junior Abe Edwards, the Eraser.
As we learned from his dad earlier, the Eraser.
Great nickname.
Love it. Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. A forgettable one.
Yeah, let's not bring that up.
I think Jimmy Kahn was also in that, but don't quote me on that. Congratulations to Eastern junior Abe Edwards, the Central Indiana Sports Report Defensive Player of the Week, and his brother was a contributor to the Central Indiana Sports Report. That played no role in our selection of Defensive Player of the Week, right, Producer Susie?
That's right.
The Central Indiana Sports Report two-way Player of the Week nominees are Northwestern senior Michael Eric, who rushed for 96 yards and a touchdown, carrying the ball 16 times. He also had 5 tackles, a tackle for loss, and a quarterback sack in Northwestern's 26-20 win over Southwood. Clinton Prairie senior Hunter Cooper ran for 104 yards on offense and had 6 tackles and 3 tackles for loss on defense. And the Gophers' 32-0 shutout win over rival Clinton Central. Greenfield Central senior Cooper Hinton ran for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns and had 2 tackles for loss and a quarterback sack on defense as the Cougars beat rival Mount Vernon 24-21. Big win for them. Lapel junior Jack Miller ran for 149 yards and a touchdown and had 5 solo tackles as Lapel knocked off Shenandoah 28-12. And Cass senior Gavin Smith ran for 103 yards and a touchdown and had a team best 8 tackles as the Kings held off a late Peru charge for a 34-32 win. Producer Susie, who is the Central Indiana Sports Report two-way Player of the Week.
The Central Indiana Sports Report two-way Player of the Week goes to Greenfield Central senior Cooper Hinton. He had a busy night with 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 tackles for loss, and a quarterback sack.
That'll win you Defensive Player of the Week.
That'll do it.
Congratulations to Cooper Hinton from Greenfield Central, the Central Indiana Sports Report two-way Player of the Week. Now we move to our team awards, the win of the week. The Clinton Prairie Gophers started HHC play with a 32-0 win over previously unbeaten rival Clinton Central. The Eastern Comets overcame an early 18-7 deficit to beat Delphi 49-24 in their Hoosier Heartland Conference opener. The Greenfield Central Cougars got past rival Mount Vernon 24-21 in their Hoosier Heritage Conference opener. The Hamilton Heights Huskies won their first game of the season, a big 35-19 win over previously unbeaten Tippecanoe Valley. And the Mississinawa Indians improved to 3-0 for the 3rd straight year with a 20-0 win over Oak Hill in their CIC opener. Susie, who had the Central Indiana Sports Report win of the week?
The Central Indiana Sports Report win of the week, I believe, should go to the Clinton Prairie Gophers.
That's because you like their name, right?
Well, yeah, I mean.
That's an awesome name.
But their 32-0 win over Clinton Central, I think is very impressive as far as their play went before, a close call, and here they just not only beat them, but they shut them out.
Congratulations to the Clinton Prairie Gophers again. Awesome name. The Central Indiana Sports Report win of the week over their rival Clinton Central Bulldogs. And by the way, they might have the best logo in Central Indiana. The nominees for Central Indiana Sports Report. You showing up just made me go a little crazy, you know? Talking off the cuff. Nominees for Central Indiana Sports Report Coach of the Week. Austin Colby led Western to a stunning 46-14 win over Class 2A number 2 and state power Indianapolis Lutheran. First-year Logansport head coach Troy Hudson has the Berries 3-0 after dominating Lafayette Central Catholic, another state power, 49-17. Michael Kelly has the Hamilton Southeastern Royals at 3-0 after a big 17-14 home win over Avon. Billy Lynch, a legendary name in Delaware County, got his first win as Delta's head coach with a 24-7 win over Shelbyville. In Northwestern, Shane Turnipseed earned his first varsity head coaching victory in the Tigers' 26-20 victory over Southwood. Producer Susie, who is the Central Indiana Sports Report Coach of the Week.
The Central Indiana Sports Report Coach of the Week, I think, needs to go to Michael Kelly. They are 3-0. They had a great win over Avon.
Yeah, huge win. I agree 100%. A lot of great coaching wins. Austin Colby definitely deserves to be mentioned there with the huge win over Lutheran, but I think we're about to hear from them. Congratulations to Coach Kelly, the Central Indiana Sports Report Coach of the Week. And the nominees for Central Indiana Sports Report Team of the Week, and the difference in this one is all of these teams are really, really good. It's not just that they won their first game.
Right.
They're the elite teams.
Right. So really hard decision.
The Carmel Greyhounds improved to 3-0 with a 48-0 win over Centerville, Ohio. And as we heard from Richie Hall, the clock was running in the third quarter, and Centerville, Ohio has a great tradition. The Carroll Cougars proved they're a Hoosier Heartland Conference contender with a big 48-21 win over previously unbeaten Taylor. Hamilton Southeastern improved to 3-0 with a big 17-14 win over Avon. Kind of has to be big to get in here, which came into the contest unbeaten as well with a couple of nice wins. The Mississinawa Indians improved to 3-0 for the third straight year with a 20-0 win over rival Oak Hill. And coming off their first win in 14 games, the Western Panthers made it back-to-back wins with a stunning 46-14 win over Class 2A number 2 Indianapolis Lutheran. And shout out to our guy Jay Stevens, the only person in our contest who picked Western. And it was Western from the beginning and Western all night. Producer Susie, I think you know who my pick is to be the Central Indiana Sports Report Team of the Week. Who is your pick to be Central Indiana Sports Report Team of the Week?
Well, I think the Central Indiana Sports Report Team of the Week is gotta be Western. That just, they took control and they never let off the gas.
Last Friday, they went into a game with a 13-game losing streak. Then the next Friday, they beat a team that never loses. Unbelievable turnaround. Incredible job by Austin Colby to have them at 2-1 heading into a big game against the Tipton Blue Devils. And now, Susie, the Central Indiana Sports Report top 20 power poll of the teams in Central Indiana. And there's not a lot of movement this week with the top teams, but there is some toward the bottom of the poll. Just outside the top 20 is 2-1 Clinton Prairie and 2-1 Lewis Cass. At number 20 is 2-1 Taylor. They fall from 13 to 20 after their loss to Carroll. Greenfield Central enters the poll. They're the only team that wasn't in it last week and is this week. They are number 19 after beating Mount Vernon 24-21. Noblesville is one of two teams with a losing record in our top 20. Should tell you how tough their schedule's been. They are 18. Tipton falls from 12 to 17 after a 42-22 loss to Twin Lakes. Oak Hill remains the same despite a loss to Mississinawa. Good performance. That game was 0-0 at halftime. The Golden Eagles are for real. They stay at 16. They're 1-2. Yorktown took a loss to New Pal, but 35-10 is not bad at all for a team that's a state championship contender, a class above. That made us actually move Yorktown up 2 spots to number 15. Carroll jumps 4 spots to number 14 after their win over Taylor. Alexandria moves from 15 to 13 after beating Elwood 47-0. They're 3-0. So is Logansport, which is number 12. They went from 14 to 12. Pendleton Heights stays at number 11 after a 35-0 win over Newcastle. And Producer Susie, number 10 through number 3, did not change at all. Fishers is 10th, Eastern 9. Madison Grant is number 8, Eastbrook 7, Hamilton Southeastern 6. Mississinawa remains number 5, LaPel is number 4, Westfield is number 3, and I swapped New Pal and Carmel this week because I said last week they were 1A and 1B. They could both literally be number 1. And so I went with New Pal this week. They deserve it. Carmel probably deserves it too. By the way, all of those teams are 3-0 except for Fishers is 2-1 and Westfield is 2-1. Thank you so much for filling in, Producer Susie. Appreciate it so much. This was fun.
Yes, it was. Thanks for letting me participate.
And as I say after every podcast, I love you so much.
And I love you.
The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.